Hello, and welcome to Patchcast, your weekly source of local community news and information. And our goal is to try to make your life as easy as possible. I'm Claudia Cruz, editor of Mountain View Patch, and I'm here with my colleagues.
Hi, I'm Ann Ernst from Cupertino Patch.
I am L.A. Chung, and I'm the editor of Los Altos Patch.
And we'll go straight to the top of the news. The Santa Clara County District Attorney's Office arrested a Mountain View doctor for selling prescription drugs without examination or review. And she was actually arrested by undercover police officers who she had sold these prescription drugs to. The doctor, Jasna Mirjan, actually also has an office in Los Gatos where she sold prescription drugs to, or gave out prescription drugs to addicts, and the family members of these addicts had requested for her not to do so, but she did, and now she has been arraigned on Monday, and after having been arrested for under $1 million arrest warrant. I also believe there have been some arrests in Cupertino. Ann?
Yes. Just yesterday, Tuesday, at the Cupertino headquarters at One Infinite Loop, there was a Greenpeace protest that started at about 8 a.m. and they brought a pod that was painted with the Apple logo on it, and two Greenpeace activists were inside. They barricaded themselves inside, refused to leave, and police ended up having to cut through the pod with a saw to get them out. Basically what Greenpeace is protesting is they want Apple to take a greater stand on green energy, utilizing green energy at their data center in particular and elsewhere around the country. They have a data center in Maiden, North Carolina that obviously will use an awful lot of energy, and Duke Energy, based in that area, gets, I believe it's 52% of its energy from coal and the rest from nuclear. And they would like for Apple to take a greater stance on that. They believe that because the company is so innovative that they could be very powerful in their message. Google and Yahoo have both signed commitments to utilizing greener energy, and they want Apple to take the same stance. Apple says that it's building a solar array and a biogas plant at the site in North Carolina, and it will be using greener energy consumption at that point. But it was quite an event yesterday. They had 4 people dressed up in giant iPhones that were flashing messages of support for their activities on their torsos, and they were following the Apple employees and that kind of thing. So it was quite an event. I understand that there's some events going on in Los Altos as well.
Well, what I'm talking about specifically has to do with more construction areas and planning on a city. Last Thursday, and I have a report in Los Altos Patch about it, there was a meeting at Grant Park to discuss the design of a roundabout at Fremont Avenue and Fallen Leaf Lane. We don't have a lot of roundabouts in California. There are some. There's one in Santa Cruz. There's some down in Southern California. I've gone around a few in San Francisco. But the idea is that it was supposed to provide some traffic calming on Fremont Avenue, which is what they call in traffic east a collector road. And this is a road that a lot of people travel in order to go elsewhere. And Fremont Avenue is at the southern end of Los Altos and travels all the way through the northern part of Los Altos into downtown. This end, however, Fremont, the traffic from the eastbound on Fremont comes from Sunnyvale and Highway 85. And Fallen Leaf Lane is probably the first intersection in Los Altos after you cross Stevens Creek. The residents in the area, including one of the planning commissioners in Los Altos, however, have a very different view about this roundabout. They were having none of it from the city engineers and the consulting engineers when they were presenting these plans. And one of the main issues has to do with the amount of rush hour traffic and the bottlenecks and the choke points. Roundabouts, even according to the Federal Highway Traffic Commission, actually work really well when there's unimpeded flow of traffic. They don't work quite as well when there are choke points, such as traffic lights and a lot of congestion. And so what people have imagined is currently on Fremont Avenue, during rush hour, when traffic is getting piled up behind the lights in Sunnyvale, that you'll have a long line of cars waiting for the lights. And the people in the area on Fallen Leaf Lane and Truman Avenue sometimes have difficulty getting out of their homes and getting out onto the collector street. And also what happens is, what they're imagining is you put a roundabout there, people will be clustered around the roundabout. They said this is not a good idea. So the planning department, the engineers are taking that information back to the council, and they'll wait for direction there. You have some things going on in planning too, right? Last night was the Cupertino Main Street project?
Yes, a marathon meeting, council meeting that went until about 2 a.m., I'm told. Yes, the Main Street project has been going on for quite a while. It's been in and out of the talks, and it looks like it's probably going to go ahead finally, with some reductions in the planning. But I think people are pretty excited about the project overall. It's expected to have a hotel with, I'm not sure of all the details right now of how many rooms, but it's right around 180 rooms, 138,000 square feet of retail space, which will include an athletic club, 260,000 square feet of office space, some senior age-restricted housing, a park, and a town square. Cupertino, as many people know, does not have a true downtown or a town square type of feel. There's no place where people feel like they can gather. And this is something that a lot of the community members have been looking for quite a while. So I think that it's going to be pretty exciting to finally break ground and get that started. And it's right on Stevens Creek and Finch and near Valco. But I understand that Mountain View has had some things going on as well.
Well, actually, in Mountain View, there was finally an agreement between the residents of Old Mountain View and Prometheus Real Estate Group. Prometheus is building a project, 300 apartment unit project on the Old Minton Lumberyard on Evelyn Avenue, and that was a controversial project to begin with. But a few weeks ago, the residents of Old Mountain View learned that there was a access to the roof would be allowed, and that wasn't originally in the plans. And what Prometheus was hoping to do is create more amenities for its residents by allowing them to barbecue, have watch TV, and have just additional space on the rooftop. However, again, the residents didn't know, and they were upset with the city, in particular the zoning administrator, for not bringing this up for review ahead of time. However, zoning administrator said that this was not a material change to what had already been permitted to the use of the space, so they had allowed it to granted Prometheus the ability to add these amenities on the rooftop. However, after a lot of back and forth, because the residents of the Old Mountain View felt that the noise would be just nuisance to them, they reached an agreement also on Monday, and Prometheus will not have any audio, visual, nothing bigger than a boombox, I think, would even be allowed up there. It would definitely close by 10 p.m., only a capacity of 50 people, just certain things to try to be good neighbors. And that's something that was actually very contentious in that community for a little bit. But in also affecting not just Old Mountain View, but this is citywide, the smoking ban went into effect at midnight, Monday night, so the morning of May 15th. And now any commercial space or any commercial space business is not allowed to have anybody smoke 25 feet from any doorway, window, vent, crack that would let any air into an enclosed facility that where smoking is already prohibited. That also includes, which is I think probably the more controversial part, the outdoor dining areas in places like Molly McGee, Sports Page, Zen Lounge, and some of the other, or restaurants, some of the outdoor entertainment spaces that the city attracts people to the city. And a lot of residents and non-residents felt that there wasn't enough notice, that they didn't have a chance to organize, that some of the international visitors won't like the policy. But regardless, the policy is in effect, and there are penalties for violators, $50 for the first citation to the individual who was caught smoking, and it increases about $50 thereafter. And for the business, education will start continuously from now on. And if the business disregards the rule and does not tell people to move away, it's at least $100 for the first citation and about $50 or $100 increase thereafter. So there is a lot going on there, but it's one of those things that you sort of either you accept and sort of get used to, I believe. Interestingly enough, also going on in the city, we've had a couple of power outages recently, and Mountain View Patch has written all about it, but we've been in touch with PG&E since Sunday. Sunday there was a small one, but it's still inconvenient if you have to sit in the dark or have no air conditioning. I guess you don't need air conditioning, but it's been pretty hot lately in the South Bay. 30 homes were affected on Sunday for a few hours. The cause of that outage is still unknown. However, we do know the culprit of Monday's 3,200 home power outage, and it happened to be a squirrel. So Monday morning between 6:09 a.m. and about 9 a.m., there was apparently a little over 311 homes that did not have any power, and it was due to a squirrel. And
what did the squirrel do?
He bit into the live wire. Thank you, Lisa. LA, the squirrel must have been really hungry, and he started chewing into a wire.
Or had a death wish.
Or had a death wish. Poor squirrel. We love our furry friends. But this one definitely inconvenienced a lot of people. But then there was actually an interesting power outage yesterday afternoon that PG&E did not have in their radar at all, because I was on the phone trying to get information about the Monday night outage, and it was a power outage in the busy intersection of Shoreline Boulevard and El Camino Real for about 3 or 4 hours during rush hour. And it was, it's 8-lane high traffic both directions, and people were, kids crossing the street, running across, people on bikes, lots of cars honking, and I'm still trying to get information about that one. So any updates on the Bullis Charter School front? LA?
I think every week we will have an update on Bullis Charter School front all the way through the beginning of school and possibly beyond that. This is not going to be a summer to take off, believe me. So last week there was a tentative agreement reached between the Bullis Charter School and the Los Altos School District. One that if they are able to hammer out the final details, hopefully before the end of the month, will bring what they call 10 years of litigation peace, possibly more. Bullis Charter School and the Los Altos School District have been in court probably on and off for the last 8 years. It has been tremendously draining, and I think both for both schools, or rather the school district and the Bullis Charter School. And it is really, as they've described it, time spent away from children, time spent away from children's education, being innovative, being, doing the things that schools are in business to do. What happened on Monday was that a number of parents came, and they had a special meeting at Egan Junior High School, and parents really wanted to make sure that the details of this tentative agreement, which has not been signed yet, are going to be made public and will be what they called sunshined for at least 2 weeks before the end of the month. They're hoping that the school district is hoping to sign an agreement before the end of the month, because there are many things that have to be done in preparation. Another thing happening on the Bullis Charter School front is that tonight the Santa Clara County School Board is meeting having a regular meeting, and one of the things it's trying to decide is whether they're going to hold a May 22nd meeting in Los Altos. 5 months ago, on January 12th actually, the County School Board of Education agreed to come to Los Altos and hear residents' concerns about what happens when a chartering agency, such as the Board of Education, authorizes a charter school in a community. It was really, I think, in large part, a desire to be heard and to understand the role of the Board of Education, because most people are not always cognizant. There's a County Board of Education. What do they do? What is its authority? And those sorts of things. So they're going to be deciding whether to hold this meeting. There have been, over the last 5 months, meetings about the meeting. Where to hold a meeting, who's going to be there, who's going to be invited, who's going to facilitate, when is a space open, do we really need it? And so finally, they have identified a date that they had previously identified, and so the question is whether they're going to do it on May 22nd or whether they're going to wait to the fall. A lot of things happen during the summer. People forget, it seems less urgent, maybe it will never take place. It's hard to tell. One other thing I'd like to bring up, because I think it's so exciting, a lot of people are anticipating tomorrow or the next day the IPO of Facebook. Yes. There's a little Los Altos connection to the IPO of Facebook. A woman named Judy Fusco, it was Mark Zuckerberg's one of his first landlords, his landlady in Los Altos, just behind the Los Altos golf course. So there was a 5-bedroom house that she rented to Mark in fall of 2004. For about 6 months they were there. During that time, Facebook grew from 200,000 users to something like 2.5 million users.
Wow.
And she looked at them as kids. It's like her daughter. I have a great clip that I'm about to show. And this is about her meeting Mark Zuckerberg for the first time, and his 2 companions who were going to live in the house signed the lease agreement. And she just looked at him and said, "How old are you?" And he said, 20. She goes, "Do you have money to rent my $1 million house?" And he said, "Yes." And he started writing, "Do you have $10,000 for the security deposit?" She says, "Yes." And he starts writing out a check, and she says, "What's Facebook?" And that was it from there. So you'll have to read about it in Patch. It'll be really fun.
He didn't really look much. He looked around, and then he said he was going like this, looking out the room, because that's where they put all of their server. So in the meantime, Dustin and Sean, Mark just said, "Oh, I want to rent your house." So I looked at him. He looked like a boy to me. So before I asked him, I said, "Excuse me, how old are you?" He said, 20. And I took back and I go, "You 20 years old and you think you're going to rent my $1 million house?" He said, "Yes." So I said, "Well, do you have money to put deposit for $10,000? He said, "Yes, I do." And you take out the checkbook and start writing the check. And the $10,000. So I said, "Well, this check will pass. Otherwise, you're not moving in." He said, "Yeah, it will. If not that, my dad will be here with the cashier check." And I go, "But you have to talk to him. How do you know he's going to come?" He said, "He will come. He will come." Show the confidence that he and his dad have very, very good relationship. So when I look at his check, it say for Facebook. And I said, "Well, what is Facebook?" Then, this little young boy sort of transformation into someone. He stood up really straight and he's staring at me. Facebook is something that we created so that people can connect with each other, and we're going to change the world. The world can be more open, and everybody can share the idea, and also old friends can find friends and be connected. Change idea, we can open up the whole world. The whole world should be more open. And that's was Facebook is all about at that time.
I have a cartoonist. I have a comic strip artist at Cupertino Patch, and he has created a comic strip with a nemesis for me. And my nemesis's name is Arnie Schwarzenberger. And Arnie gets very angry with me when I play these games on the weekends. I have 2 games that I play on the weekends. Where's This in Cupertino, and Guess Where I Was Standing in Cupertino. And so Mason McCarty is a Cupertino resident, and he's a very talented artist. He's a cartoonist, and he's making a comic strip. And he's inviting the community of Cupertino to send him a photo to become a part of the comic strip, so we could have our very own comic strip with characters from the community kind of playing back and forth with me and my games, and Arnie trying to, thwart my attempts to trick people. And, Arnie, he draws Arnie in the photos that I run. He takes the photo and then he draws Arnie in there, and then he posts it on the site. So, like, I ran a Where's This in Cupertino? It was the Bate Brothers liquor store on Stevens Creek and Foothill, I think it is. And he drew a picture of Arnie stumbling out of the liquor store and posted that. So he's just having a lot of fun and trying to engage the community and being part of the whole thing. So I'm pretty excited about it. I mean, it's very unique, and he's talented. So.
The Project Outlet program, run out of the Community Health Awareness Council, held its 13th annual gala at the Computer History Museum, and this fundraiser raises a third of the $400,000 that they need to be able to provide LGBT services to youth in the peninsula. And they're actually the most comprehensive program between San Jose and San Francisco for youth. And they also offer, and according to Director Anthony Ross, possibly the only Spanish language program for LGBT youth as well. We spoke with Anthony Ross about what this means to them. And
Out to Eat is Outlet's annual dinner, fundraiser and dinner. And it's become it is really the largest LGBT event on the peninsula. People look forward to this. We're in our 13th year. And so every year we have the same people come. They've been here for 14 years, 13 years. And they bring new people with them. And those people come back. So it's really it's a fundraiser, and it's people who love Outlet and want to support the youth. But it's also it's a reunion. It's like people come back, they see their friends, they see old friends, new friends, and they just love it. It's the LGBT community, coming together.
Also, the keynote speaker at the event was former Mountain View resident and just renowned Pulitzer Prize winner, Jose Antonio Vargas, who last year, it's very interesting because he talks about coming out, and he came out as an openly gay man when he was at Mountain View High School. Back in 1999, I believe, before he graduated. And then he also came out again last year, almost a year ago this June, for being an undocumented immigrant in this country. He arrived when he was about 12. And he talks about his 2 coming outs. He's been very open about that, but he's definitely, it was something to share with 400 plus people who were at the event on Friday.
Senior year, I was the only kind of openly gay kid at school. But I was lucky. This was the post-Matthew Shepard, post-Ellen DeGeneres on the cover of Time magazine. That was changed, right? Kind of Will and Grace era. But what people didn't know, I didn't tell anybody else, was I had this other closet thing going on. I was undocumented, and I am undocumented. Didn't have papers. And what's been so amazing, at least to me, is seeing how many undocumented immigrants, how many of the leaders of the undocumented youth movement are openly gay. They're the ones that study the civil rights movement, and they're the ones that grew up in kind of this, again, post-Ellen, post-Will and Grace, coming out as a good thing era.
So I believe there's some interesting things going on this week in LA. I know that Foothill College has been very involved in that. So what can you tell us?
Well, we're coming up on May 20th for what we call an annular solar eclipse. It's a partial eclipse. It's not a full eclipse, but it will be eclipse of the sun. And you can go to the Foothill Observatory and see it with using special filters so you don't ruin your eyes. And they also can give you some instructions in Patch on how you can make a pinhole projector to watch the solar eclipse on Sunday. It's going to take place between 5:16 p.m. and 7:40. I think the optimum time to view is 6:33 p.m., but do not look at the sun. It will really seriously damage your eyes. We also have some other events going on this coming weekend. The Fine Art in the Park is taking place in Lincoln Park, right along Foothill Expressway, directly across from downtown Los Altos. This is a really, really extraordinary event where you get a lot of gorgeous, gorgeous art, all different media. And it's the primary fundraiser for the Rotary Club of Los Altos, where they do a lot of very good work, including the Road to Care, for example, at Mountain View, at El Camino Hospital in Mountain View. The very beloved 60-plus year, or I said 40-plus year pet parade also steps off on Saturday. If you have a dog, a cat, a worm, a bunny, a guinea pig, bring them. Yeah. Downtown Los Altos at 10 a.m. is the place to be. I brought my dog Laddie one year, and cats and things like that. So it's a great time. It's wonderful just to bring your pet out and show them off.
A pet rock.
A pet rock.
Taking place on Saturdays. So come shop, help support Friends of the Library. It's always a great event where you get to peruse some of the titles they have, and if you have not yet given up on bound books, this is the place to be. There's also a lot of theater in Mountain View. Visit Peninsula Youth Theater. They are having a showing of Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. Pear Avenue Theater is showing Pear Slices for another week, and you should stop by and support the local Black Box Theater. But in volunteerism and supporting the American Cancer Society, Relay for Life.
I am going to be covering Maker Faire, which is actually in San Mateo. There's makers who come from all over the Bay Area who go there, and they show, everything that you can think of how they make a robot. There's two young makers coming from Cupertino, one in particular who has made a device that can feed a cat. It's an automatic cat feeder. And so people go to Maker Faire and they show how to do things, from making a robot, from an underwater explorer. There was somebody last year from Cupertino who had made a robot very much like Lost in Space robot, and they're willing to share how to do these things.
So I guess it's danger, Will Robinson.
Exactly. Yes. But there's people from all the communities around, and so it's just an incredible event.
We have taken up another great 30 minutes of conversation and news about our communities, Cupertino, Mountain View, and Los Altos. Remember to check out our sites. We have tons of local bloggers, which we'll tell you about next week. But again, I'm Claudia Cruz with mountainview.patch.com.
And I'm Ann Ernst with Cupertino.patch.com.
And I am L.A. Chung with losaltos.patch.com.
And thank you to the cast and crew and staff of KMVT who helps bring us to you every week. Thank you very much, and see you next week.